Make it 3 in a row as the Canucks wrap up the road trip with a win in the Windy City. It's time for another edition of Rink Wide Vancouver. And we welcome you inside our rink-wide studio in the lower lobby at the Wall Center Hotel in the heart of downtown Vancouver. Jeff Patterson joined once again by Irfan Ghaffar, a well-rested Irf who had the weekend off, but he's back. The beat goes on. The Canucks win again. And what was this about a slow start for this hockey club this year?
Yeah. Didn't look like it. All he needed was a road trip.
Not the story now. Yeah, exactly. People always talk about bonding and gelling. Whatever the case, started with a loss in Tampa, but they rattle off 3 straight wins to wrap up the road trip, putting the win in the Windy City, 6-3, the final score. Quick start for the Vancouver Canucks. Power play, showed some signs of life. JT Miller, was he going to play? You knew he would play. He would play on crutches. Okay, maybe not so much, but you kind of got a sense that JT would play. And play he did. He didn't play a ton, but he left his mark on this hockey game with 3 more points for the Vancouver Canucks, so assistant captain. So spread scoring, goaltending, some of the things that we had seen through this road trip. Again, still waiting for some of the big guns to arrive in the score column in terms of scoring goals. But in their absence, we're seeing others step up. And tonight it was Danton Heinen with his first 2 goals.
Langley's
Vancouver Canuck. Yeah,
Langley's Danton Heinen. Yeah. And right place, right time. Clean win, Jeff, I think I'd say, from the Vancouver Canucks. I mean, maybe a couple areas they want to sharpen, but for the most part, the Canucks, own this hockey game from beginning to end, kind of let the Blackhawks into it a little bit, but put the gas on the pedal. They restored a 2-goal lead, and they really didn't look back after that. So we'll get into it all, obviously. Dan Heinen, you mentioned. I want to talk about Kevin Lankinen, a guy that, they might go back and forth. Rick told Murph before the game, Artie's going to get in, but when your goalie's playing as well as he is, I'm not entirely sure that's going to be the case. And obviously, the guy that we're going to talk about, Kiefer Sherwood, laying some wood down definitely in this game against the members of the Chicago Blackhawks.
Wrecking ball, just racking up the hits, outdid himself. He's already been in double digits this season, and tonight took it even higher than that. So, yeah, we'll talk about Kiefer Sherwood. Hey, we've got all of our usual features. We got the 3 stars. You got a stat that stands out for you a little bit later on. And, of course, we want you to be a part of what we're doing here at Rink Wide Vancouver. So hit us up with your thoughts on our feedback channels. You can see them there on the screen if you're watching the YouTube live stream at Rink Wide Van on X and Insta. We've got other ways that you can reach out and find us as well. Or you can comment right there in the live chat as well, and we'll check in and certainly incorporate some of your feedback as we go. It was great to see so many of you out on Saturday at the first Canucks Army watch party of the season. We'll do a few more of those as the year unfolds. All of that took place at Greta, and Greta is one of the presenting sponsors of Rink Wide Vancouver. It's a great time of the year for sports fans. Hockey season now in full swing, but lots going on as well with baseball playoffs and down to the final 2 there. Football, soccer. You can watch them all at Greta. It's a great spot for all the games, home and away. And as we said, we'll have more Canucks viewing parties as we go. Minutes from the arena. Come by before or after the game or the event. Check out the great street food menu, all the games in the arcade, and they were hopping the other night. Weekly drink specials, Greta Bar, the place to be, 50 West Cordova, Greta Bar. Let the games begin. And this game barely begun, 21 seconds after the opening faceoff. And it was notable, we knew that JT Miller was going to play from warm-up and when the lineup was put in there, but we've seen JT Miller take the opening faceoff a lot, in fact, in Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. And that's where this storyline sort of began. 9 seconds in, had to leave and go down the tunnel the other night. So it was notable at very least that it wasn't the Miller line to start this game. And I think it was a nod to the way that Blueger and Sherwood and Danton Heinen have been playing. Whatever the case, we were going to have to wait a little while to see if JT Miller was going to take faceoffs. He didn't. Spoiler alert. But Teddy Blueger did. Canucks won that draw, got the puck into the Chicago zone, and it never left the zone until it was in the back of the net. I know they don't give out 3 assists on goals, but Phil Hronek probably deserved. He makes a great play at the line to keep that puck in, turns it back down the boards to Kiefer Sherwood. And I turned to you. I thought the Canucks had overpassed the puck a little too much, but hey, they know what they're doing. They're the pros. We are amateurs as we analyze these things, but still, from Sherwood to Blueger. Sherwood looked like he was in a good spot to shoot the puck, and then Blueger looked like he was in a good spot to shoot the puck, but there was Danton Heinen to work his way clean shooting lane, and he makes no mistakes. So, I don't know if it's taken longer than expected. I guess I would have banked on the other Boston Bruin, Jake DeBrusk, to have scored before Danton Heinen. Whatever the case, 6th game of the season, Heinen gets his first as a Canuck 21 seconds in, and he would get his second 10 minutes later, halfway through that period. What a crazy first period, though. Like, when you just couldn't come up for air, really.
Yeah.
Catch your breath. It looked like the Canucks were in full control, and then the Blackhawks would chip away. 6 total goals in the period, 4-2 lead for the Canucks. I think I had it down as 24 shots and 41 shot attempts. So, high event hockey in period number 1 at the United Center.
And usually you think at the end of a road trip or a longer road trip like the Canucks had going out on the East Coast, they'd be kind of 1 foot out the door. It wasn't the case for this Vancouver Canucks team, who kind of just, kept the momentum going from their win over the weekend. Obviously 21 seconds in, Danton Heinen, Ilya Micayev had the other record in November of 2022. We won't talk about him much. We didn't see him much, as he does play
what's he up to these
for
days?
the Chicago Blackhawks. Was on the top line to start the season. Definitely not on that one as well. Look, JT Miller, like you mentioned, not taking faceoffs, had a goal and 2 assists, still 3 points for, the heartbeat of the Vancouver Canuck team. And look, in that first period, I think it was all Vancouver Canucks. And I think the way they went about it, Jeff, like I mentioned off the top there, you look at plays that can happen, and you look at guys maybe, kind of seeing they got a few days off here now after the Chicago game. They can get on the plane, come back home. But, you finish this one out, you see this game out, and, JT Miller obviously not taking face off. We know he's playing hurt. It's no secret. That's an obvious thing. I thought Elias Pettersson had a strong game. Didn't put the puck in the net, had an assist though, but that will come at some point. I know Canucks fans are so desperately waiting for him to get that, elusive goal. Eric Bradstrom, I thought, played a pretty good hockey game, picked up an assist, his first as a Vancouver Canuck. And Canucks took a 2-goal lead for for 3 times in that first period. So definitely a lot of goals. Like you mentioned, didn't really have time to come up for there on that one.
No, I mean, I love the fact that they got the quick start and they backed it up with a power play goal and take a 2-0 lead. But then the Blackhawks score, Ryan Donato, bit of a carnival in the Canucks zone, Carson Soucy and Tyler Myers, and there was enough to go around there. Jake DeBrusk was sort of flying the zone, and who was covering the guts of the ice? The answer was nobody. And so Donato gets the Hawks on the board, gives them a little bit of life, but then the Canucks restore that 2-goal lead. The Heinen goal midway through the period, but then Taylor Hall, after Tyler Myers had the puck hop over his stick, it's been a bit of a struggle. I know we saluted Myers for his 1,000th game the other night and had the nice assist, but it has been a bit of a struggle for the Myers-Soucy pair, and they're going to continue to use them as matchup guys. Again, there are much better teams in the National Hockey League than the Chicago Blackhawks, and the underlying numbers not kind to Carson Soucy and Tyler Myers. But there was Connor Garland, who has probably been, start to finish this season, the best and most consistent Canuck. And there was Garland off to the side of the net. Elias Pettersson and JT Miller get the assist there, 15-16 of the first period, and that rounded out the scoring. So there was still almost 5 minutes left in the first period. Nothing more there. But I know the Hawks and Hawk fans were incensed on the 4-2 goal.
Yeah.
And I do think they've got reason for this.
Definitely have beef.
We can bring up the graphic, Jacob. Connor Garland is one of many Canucks circled there. If you're watching on the live stream, nice handiwork by Jacob. Garland's the puck carrier coming down the right side. Carries the puck across the blue line. Like, the Canucks are on the attack at that point. And you can look at the 2 defensemen that are heading to the bench. They're out of the play. But one of them, and I think it's Hronek, is like dead center in the ice there. Like, he's got a long way to go, Irv.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Hawks have reason to be upset. Sometimes the bounces go your way. Sometimes they don't. They challenged on the 3-1 goal, the second Heinen goal of the night. And it was one of those ones. Kiefer Sherwood looked to be offside and then tagged up and put himself back onside, and the play continued. And I get what the Hawks were challenging, but they lost the challenge. Canucks got a power play out of that. The Hawks then couldn't challenge. I don't think too many men on the ice is a challengeable offense.
I don't think so. But on a goal?
But
yeah,
there are 7 skaters. Like that one, I know there's a lot going on, but 7 skaters and a goalie, that sounds like, I don't care how you come at it. That sounds like too many men on the ice. So maybe the Canucks dodge a bit of a bullet there. But a big goal to, again, restore the 2-goal lead, a little bit of breathing room, and then we all were able to catch our breath. Nothing doing in the second period. So compared to what we saw in the first period, second period, bit of a snooze fest there. Although, I mean, there were some chances. Nils Höglander alone in front. There was that wild scramble, Pettersson, Garland, and Höglander applying all kinds of pressure. And then Bertuzzi on the power play in that second period got the puck behind Kevin Lankinen. I don't know if it hit the post, whatever, it stayed out, although Bertuzzi was able to get one on power play in the third period, but by then we were just counting down to the start of Rink Wide, essentially. So that was the final goal of the night. Brock Boeser and Pius Suter scoring 28 seconds apart in the third period to salt this thing away for the Vancouver Canucks. And what I liked about the Boeser goal was Elias Pettersson doing his deeks, draws the penalty. And yes, we haven't seen the massive breakout offensively for Elias Pettersson. And here we are 6 games in, and a point here and a point there. He's up with 3 on the season. But the Canucks have scored 20 goals now, and Elias Pettersson and Jake DeBrusk still looking for their first of the season. So that's a little bit of a surprise. That's not our stat that stands out. We'll get to that a little bit later on, but 20 goals in and nothing yet for Pettersson or DeBrusk. But Pettersson draws the penalty. Make no mistake. Like, that looked a little bit more like vintage Elias Pettersson, confidence to take on a guy one-on-one, puck through his skates, and Connor Murphy takes him down. Canucks go to the power play. And at that point, it's 4-2 with half a period to go. We've seen them fritter away a lead on opening night against the Calgary Flames. I guess the way goals were being scored early, this one wasn't over. The Canucks were in full control. But when JT Miller slides that puck down and Boeser redirects it for his 4th of the season, like, that's putting the hammer down. That's what you want to see from a power play that ends up scoring twice on the night. So we've been talking about the power play coming in, but hey, some signs of life from the Canucks power play tonight.
Yeah, 2 for 3. I think that we have to study the Quinn Hughes drop pass there even more than the JT pass, because that would kind of defy the laws of physics. The puck just sat there right at the edge of the blue line before JT Miller skated around, got it, and found Boeser right in the middle for that tip in. So, yeah, I mean, look, if this power play can start to cook and do its thing for the foreseeable future and get hot and go over 50% or in and around that area, this team will find a lot of success. And you mentioned Elias Pettersson. Yeah, okay, he's not on the score sheet. One of 2 Canucks that aren't, scoring. But if they're winning games and he's drawing penalties, his points will come and his goals will come. But I think the way that they saw this game out, the way that Elias Pettersson did move his feet, he was visible. You did notice him, but you notice him for the right reasons, Jeff. Sometimes when we do this, we're noticing him for the wrong reasons. So let's notice him and say that he did have a pretty solid game, I think, in my opinion. But we got to get to it, man. The guy, Kiefer Sherwood, absolutely, like you said, and wrecking ball, 12 hits in this one, ties Luke Shen for the most in franchise history in a game, and just an all-around great performance. And I think even going back, Jeff, there's a way bigger number that he's reaching on now.
Well, he came into the night leading the NHL in hits, and so that doesn't change. He is still your hit leader. The night isn't done. You may have heard the Frozen Frenzy. There's a few other games going on, so we haven't tabulated all the results from the early games, though. I think there was one other player that was at 29 hits on the season, which is where Kiefer Sherwood started this night, and he had 12. Or he started the night at 32, rather. So he's up to 44 hits now, 6 games in, and it just feels like this is truly a wrecking ball that's gaining momentum here, and he's kind of trying to outdo himself on a nightly basis, but he's not running around. He's not putting himself out of position to make these hits. In fact, this seems to be getting him into hockey games, because not only does he have the 12 hits, he had 2 more assists here. He scored the other night in Philadelphia. And so he really has been pulling the rope in the right direction, contributing, however you want to say it. Let's get to the 3 stars, because he features prominently in the 3 stars. The 3 stars are presented by Square. If you run a restaurant, you're too busy for this ad, you're thinking about how to get more orders flowing and new locations opening, you need to get more customers and then keep them coming back. So really, you're already thinking about Square, because Square Restaurant Tech helps more than 400,000 restaurants do all these things and more. When you're thinking about your restaurant, think bigger and think Square. Go to square.ca to see why Square is big in restaurants. Danton Heinen, the local product, first 2 goals as a Canuck, including setting the tone early. He is the first star, but there is Mr. 12 hit, Mr. Wrecking Ball. The hit parade continues for Kiefer Sherwood. And I think this is what you have to love about JT Miller. Like, even when he's questionable and not at his best and not taking faceoffs, still able to impact this hockey game and tilt the ice in the Canucks' favor and do things that help this hockey club win games. And, it's not just 3 in a row. And we joked right off the top, wow, what slow start. Earth now 3-1-2. They have 1 outright loss in the first 6 hockey games, and probably should be better given the way the opening night went against Calgary. In fact, taking the third period lead against Philadelphia in the second night. left points on the table in those games. But still, it's hard to argue now when you look at that record of 3-1-2, and it's not on the backs of Pettersson and Hughes. Miller's had his moments, and Boeser scored again. But really, I think the Canucks have to be delighted to see the spread offense and the fact that they're getting contributions from a ton of guys lower in the lineup.
Well, last year it was the Garland, Joshua, and Suter line, or Bluger, sorry. And this year it's Kiefer Sherwood. It's Dan Heinen now, obviously, with 2 goals in this hockey game. And it's something that this team lacked, right? It was that secondary scoring other than your top 6. It was can we compete in the playoffs? I know it's a long time away, but do we have enough depth in our lineup to win us hockey games? We can't just rely on our stars putting up career numbers like they did last season. So when you see this and you look at three stars, Jeff, like you mentioned, JT Miller is obviously there, but the first 2 guys that you wouldn't really think of on a nightly basis to go out and do that. So definitely a positive sign here. And obviously the goaltender was a big reason why they won this hockey game as well.
3 stars selected in the building. I'm not sure who was picking them, but Danton Heinen, JT Miller, and Connor Garland. So no love for Kiefer Sherwood. What does the guy have to do on the ice there in person to be a star? But he's a star here on Rink Wide. Danton Heinen, Kiefer Sherwood, and JT Miller, the 3 stars of this hockey game. You mentioned Micayev. It just looks like a continuation of what we saw down the stretch and through the playoffs here in Vancouver. Ilya Micayev played 14 and a half minutes in this hockey game, 14:37, had 1 shot on goal and 1 giveaway. That was it. There is no bottom line. You talked about him being on the top line to start the season. Well, there's no bottom line. He's played 7 games now, has 7 shots, and doesn't have a point. So
nope.
You would have thought, like, if there was a game that maybe he'd get up for and want to prove some sort of point, but, man, he was as invisible as he was for the second half of the season when he was wearing Canuck colors. Just sticking on the Hawks for a second, obviously a ton of attention, as there should be, on Connor Bedard. Had his moments, 22 minutes of ice time, so he played a ton. 6 shots on goal, 9 attempts. Got absolutely crushed in the faceoff circle, 2 of 13 on the draw, and was out there for 3 Canuck goals at even strength. So not a banner night for Connor Bedard. Doesn't figure in the scoring when they get 3, and they had that 5-on-3. But there were some opportunities, including early in the third period when it was a 4-2 hockey game. He spots Nick Foligno alone in front, point blank. And so you see the vision, the playmaking of a guy like Connor Bedard. And remember, last year was hurt when the Hawks came through the only time in January with a broken jaw. So still hasn't played a game here at Rogers Arena in his hometown, but that will change, we hope. Let's hope for good health. They're in town. Chicago was here twice this year, November 16th on a Saturday night, so a Hockey Night in Canada game. First chance for Connor Bedard to skate at Rogers Arena in the National Hockey League. What did you make of his night?
Connor Bedard's going to do Connor Bedard things, right? 6 shots on nets, I think. His line was, 3.5 before the game. So you look at, what the Chicago Blackhawks are going to see in the future, and just that. You're going to get him, his vision's incredible. He's got such a heavy shot. Almost every shot he takes, if it's on the goalie drops it because he's got so much power behind it. But the vision's there. And like you mentioned on that pass to Foligno and Lankinen, absolutely robbing Foligno on that one. But yeah, the North Vancouver's product, best teenage product this city's ever produced for the most part when you look at it. But yeah, I think that, the Canucks did their job in shutting him down, keeping him off the score sheet, and took advantage when he was on the ice.
Yeah, so again, looking forward to getting a chance to see him do his thing in person. There's always going to be moments, as you said, Connor Bedard does Connor Bedard things. Tyler Bertuzzi, Taylor Hall, and Ryan Donato, each with their 2nd goals of the season. They were the goal scorers for the Chicago Blackhawks. But this is the Canucks postgame. So let's focus on the Vancouver team. Got outshot 34-30. Again, a little loose at times in the first period particularly. But, at the end of a trip, it's hard to clobber them over the head. I'll be curious to see what Rick Tocchet thought of the... I still think, start to finish, they're looking for the complete 60-minute effort. But, maybe trying to play the perfect game is one of those elusive dreams. You did what they had to do. Never trailed in this hockey game. Obviously didn't trail in Philadelphia the other night. Didn't trail in Florida either. So they've done a nice job of getting leads, not allowing teams to take control other than Tampa Bay at the outset of the trip. But again, that remains their lone outright loss. So they picked up points in 5 of 6 here. And now they're home for 3 in a row, 3 Eastern opponents, and some high-profile Hockey Club, Sid and the Penguins in on Saturday. Carolina comes through, and then Hughes Bowl, the first installment of the Hughes brothers battle this year, and we'll see if Luke's available. It sounded like he was getting closer. I don't know if he'll be ready to play, but Jack will be good to go. And another night for Quinn where, the Canucks, as we said, in control of this hockey game, able to ease up on their captain, doesn't even get to 20 minutes, which is a great sign. I mentioned that because it's good news. Still had 2 points. He's +3, 10 shot attempts.
Again.
So, yeah, Kiefer Sherwood is the hitting guy, and Quinn Hughes is the shooting guy right now for the Vancouver Canucks. So 5 shots on goal on 10 attempts. But I love the fact that 1949 at the end of a road trip, if you have the luxury of a lead in the third period, there'll be nights where you need them to play 25, 26, 28, whatever. This wasn't one of them. And so some good coaching by Adam Foote and Rick Tocchet to sort of ease off on Quinn Hughes.
Yeah, Tyler Myers with 22-34 of ice time, the big ice time guy for the Vancouver Canucks, especially on the defensive side. Yeah, if you can get him the rest, you go out and do that. But the shooting, again, Jeff, like we always talk about it, and Quinn Hughes, it's finding the way to get to the puck to the net. 10 shot attempts, 5 on net, right? And that beautiful pass, a drop pass to JT Miller on the goal, and obviously getting in on the score sheet. 92 points last season as a defenseman. Can he get to 100? I know he's still got to put up some fairly large numbers here over the next little while. But yeah, getting the rest I think was important. Not playing heavy minutes against the team's best opponent night in and night out. So all in all, a pretty good night for Quinn Hughes.
Yeah, and overall, another good night for the Vancouver Canucks. Win it by a score of 6-3. This is Rink Wide Vancouver, and we want to hear from you. So again, continue to contribute to the social channels that you see on the screen, and Irf is diligently checking out the live chat as well. Let's get to the stat that stands out, because look, there's a great run for the Vancouver Canucks right now against a singular opponent. In saying that, there's probably a bunch of teams that have a pretty good record against the Blackhawks over the last couple of years. You don't land Connor Bedard without basically seeing the bottom fall out. So, but that's a stat that stands out. That's 8 straight wins now for the Vancouver Canucks over the Chicago Blackhawks, and push it back even further, 11 of their last 12. So not quite guaranteed win night when you face the Hawks, but sort of feels that way, and we'll see if that trend continues when they're here in a month's time or less than a month's time. But yeah, that jumps out at me. Right now, the Vancouver Canucks just having a ton of success against the Chicago Blackhawk team, and they did it again in this one, winning by a score of 6-3.
Yeah, no, and I'm just taking a look at some of our people chiming in on all of our social channels. This MVD, this Hawks team isn't a joke that it was. Bedard has a hat trick in this game versus half the goalies in the league. So credit to Lankinen, the way that he's been playing there. Sherwood, Digital Trans, going to be the unsung hero. And I think that that's one that, I'm going to keep an eye on here. Is he might, in fact, actually be the guy that, is that, what was it, Dakota Joshua? Was that the last 2 seasons, wasn't he? So someone else also asking, where do you put Dakota Joshua when he comes back into the lineup? Jeff, I'll ask you that, because the news today, I think Darren Dreger or Frank Saravalli saying that, Joshua may be a week or 2 away. We know that he's with the team. We know that he's skating with the team in a non-contact jersey. Obviously, he needs to come back, get hit a little bit, see if he can manage some pain and be able to get through shifts and go and play in that high level. But where do you put him back in the lineup when you do?
Yeah, just to bring people up to speed, this is really good news to come off the road trip. Forget the 3 straight wins. Dakota Joshua took the morning skate with the group in a non-contact jersey in Philly, was out at practice again in the non-contact jersey, and then was on the ice. It was an optional morning skate, but Rick Tocchet today said they wanted to see him starting to jostle and bump guys and take a little bit of contact. So that's a big step in the progression of getting back into the lineup. I still think we're looking at a week to 10 days, as Frank Saravalli reported. Frank was there in Chicago, so he was on the ground getting a first-hand account, perhaps. Whatever the case, this 3-game homestand, I don't know. But, then the calendar flips to November, and I think at that point, if all continues to go well, that you're looking at Dakota Joshua being available and ready for the Canucks. So where does he fit in this lineup? As much as Dan Heinen was the first star of the hockey game, got to show a little respect, but I'm already bumping the guy off what's been one of the Canucks' best lines the last couple of games. But I would love to see a line of Teddy Bluger with Sherwood on one side and Dakota Joshua on the other. And I think it might help Dakota Joshua ease back in a little bit, that, the pressure isn't on him to be the wrecking ball. You've got Kiefer Sherwood over there. Give him a little bit of time to find his game, get back to, like everybody else has had training camp in the preseason, and by then 10 games. you're asking a guy to catch up and jump back in. That's difficult for some guys. So it's not as simple as just saying, hey, Dakota Joshua is back. But I like the idea of that option for Rick Tocchet at the very least, of Joshua on one side, Sherwood on the other, and the way Teddy Bluger is going. And look, I was one of those guys that thought Pia Suter should get the first look as the third-line center. I know Suter scored the 6th goal in a 6-3 win, his first of the season. It's been remarkably quiet around Pia Suter. He's barely played center. And I give Teddy Bluger credit. He has just looked really solid almost every night out for the Vancouver Canucks and picks up another point, a primary assist on the Heinen goal that opened the scoring here. So I think Teddy Bluger is sort of cementing himself as the third-line center. In saying that, you saw what a true third-line center in Elias Lindholm looked like in the playoffs last year. Teddy Bluger's not obviously at that level offensively, but he's doing an awfully good job in just about everything he does for the Vancouver Canucks. So I'm prepared to give him a little bit of leash as the third-line center right now.
You mentioned that line. Obviously, you want to put Joshua with Bluger and Sherwood. Rick Tocchet was asked about the line tonight, and his quoted was saying they were playing the right way. That was him talking about Dan Heinen, Teddy Bluger, and Kiefer Sherwood. So a good problem to have, I think, if you're Rick Tocchet, because you're not getting a guy that's back in Dakota Joshua that's a 25, 30 goal scorer guy that you know exactly where you're going to put him. You're getting a depth guy. So you kind of have another piece of the puzzle here where you can maneuver things. And if you have guys that are going, Dakota Joshua, sure, I can play him on that top line if I really want to. I can play him on the second line, maybe with Elias Pettersson if I have to, and move Connor Garland or move a guy like Niels Höglander up. So good problem to have. A few days, obviously, maybe a week or two before we see Dakota Joshua in action. But yeah, Rick Tocchet singing the praises of that third line of Heinen, Bluger, and Sherwood.
Keep the input coming to the Great Clips inbox. More than 4,400 hair salons throughout the United States and Canada. Great Clips, world's largest hair salon and the official hair salon of the National Hockey League. For more information, check out greatclips.com. Great Clips, it's going to be great. He had been great the last couple of games. He was good tonight, but the Hawks got 3 on him, a former Blackhawk. But Kevin Lankinen delivers yet another victory for the Vancouver Canucks. Chicago with 34 shots. Lankinen stops 31 of them. I look at the goals. I'm not sure that there was a bad goal in the bunch. Again, it was just a kind of crazy back and forth game, trading chances. I think the Canucks probably want to dial that down against better opponents, but there were some moments in this hockey game where Lankinen was again up to the challenge. And at the end of the night, I just asked, did he deliver? Did he get another win for the Canucks? Yeah, he did. And so he's 3-0-1, gives up 3 for the first time in a game this season as a member of the Vancouver Canucks, but they outscore the issues and win it going away. What did you make of Kevin Lankinen's night?
Calm, cool, and collected. I mean, look, I think that, he's a guy that has that NHL experience, Jeff. We talk so much about the Canucks needing a goalie that they can turn to and say that if Demko was out, can we put him in and be that guy to guide us through and get us through to the stage of when he's going to come back. We obviously don't know when Thatcher Demko is going to come back. I think we'll get into it maybe in a little bit here later on in this program. But yeah, Kevin Lankinen, I thought was good. I thought that he's exactly what they needed from him, made big saves when he needed to, didn't do anything too fancy, didn't get lost out there, and kept his team in the hockey game. You score 6, you should win if you're a hockey club, and the Vancouver Canucks were able to do that.
I like percentages. Brock Boeser scored on his only shot of the game, and it really wasn't even a shot. It was a redirection, a great pass by JT Miller. But we've seen the last couple of seasons, Brock's just become a demon in front of the net, finds the right spot, and his teammates are going to find him. Murphy's at 4 goals through 6 games. Contract year for Brock Boeser, trying to prove that last year wasn't any kind of outlier. He told me about 10 days ago that, damn it, he wants a spot on Team USA and the 4 Nations Faceoff. They have to make all the nations, 4 of them, there's not that many, the teams, all the teams that are participating, they name their final rosters at the end of November. So guys essentially have a 20-game run to put their best foot forward. If Brock Boeser continues to score at this rate, Team USA is going to have to think long and hard about whether they can keep him off their roster. He doesn't kill penalties. He doesn't take faceoffs, but we've seen that he could play a 4th-line role in a tournament like that where he'd bring offense, defensively responsible. He plays with JT Miller. Does that factor in? He thinks it does. I asked him about that, and he thinks, hey, if Team USA is coming to keep close tabs on JT, they're going to see me an awful lot, and things are going well. This is another really good start. It's not 4 on opening night, but it's 4 in the first 6 games for Brock Boeser.
Well, I think just him with Miller and going back to the Team USA thing, Jeff. Didn't Sidney Crosby get Chris Kunitz at the Olympics because they were playing so well together? So you can definitely see that, and you want to have guys that already have chemistry. And look, the way that Team USA is probably going to be stacked, you can probably put anyone on that other wing, and they'd be pretty good with those two players. But yeah, I mean, look, contract year, Boeser wanting to prove that last year wasn't a fluke. Everything that he went through in the summer with the blood clots and everything like that. So it's really good to see. But another way that he scored a goal, right? On the power play, getting into those tough areas. Was it 16 goals were on the power play last season for Brock Boeser, and they were all in those areas, in tight, redirections, finding pucks that are loose and being able to go and do that. So yeah, happy for Brock. Team USA definitely will be on his radar. I mean, if Tom Wilson, the season that he started, if he's going to be, a guy that's being considered for Team Canada, you got to bet for sure that Brock Boeser is definitely a candidate for Team USA.
Well, that front of the net right now seems to be a comfort area for Brock Boeser, and I use that as a segue, a professional segue at that, to welcome White Spot as a new partner to Rink Wide Vancouver. And who doesn't love White Spot? I do.
Love White Spot.
White Spot, they're all about enjoying great, comforting food and spending quality time with loved ones. With the new comfort menu, White Spot is focusing on cozy, satisfying flavors that are perfect to enjoy with family. Available now and developed by the White Spot culinary team, the comfort menu is filled with warm, indulgent dishes designed to make you feel right at home like Brock Boeser in the slot. New menu features mouthwatering new additions like mini Yorkies, the braised beef burger, homestyle pot roast, and backed by popular demand, it's the iconic chicken pot pie. Bring your family to White Spot for a delicious meal, perfect for the season. Visit your local White Spot today. All right, JT Miller didn't take faceoffs. That's not a huge surprise. He took one after the opening draw in Philadelphia the other night. We know that there's something there. He's playing through something. You got the maintenance day at practice. Schedule works in their favor here, Irv, because they don't play now till Saturday. So if the team practices, I'm sure they will, a couple of times here before the game against the Penguins. I don't know if JT will, but he doesn't have to. Give him all the rest he needs. But in his absence in the circle, yikes, that's the word I'm using here. The Canucks as a team won 25 and lost 37, 40% as a team. Teddy Bluger was the only guy that even flirted with 500. He went 10-10, so he had 10 of the 25 faceoff wins, but tough night for guys like Pius Suter. Brock Boeser's not a center. He went 2-5 in the faceoff circle. There were others that
Elias
Pettersson, know that Nils Amon's not much of a face-off guy. He was 40%, like the team as well. So, it didn't hurt them here tonight, but you do wonder. And just even further than that, and again, we can dive into the numbers here on a show like this. When I look at the face-off summary for the night, in the defensive zone, the Canucks were 40% as a team on the night. All situations, they won 36%. In their own zone. That's playing with fire. At some point, that kind of statistic, if it was to carry on and be a trend, you're allowing other teams to control the puck off the faceoff in the offensive zone. So, yeah, that's certainly something to consider there. You know who they could use? They could use a guy like Jason Dickinson. Okay, maybe not, but he went 13-3.
He did use a guy like Jason Dickinson.
Crushed it. And again, the Hawks crushed the Canucks on the night when Connor Bedard won 2 of 13. That tells you the struggles that the Vancouver Canucks had overall. So, in saying all of that, I do wonder if they have to look at Aatu Räty. If this is going to be an ongoing thing for JT Miller, do they have to look at bringing Aatu Räty back just to be a face-off option for Rick Tocchet? Because I don't think they can move forward being 40% as a team on the regular here.
Yeah, no, Archie Baines obviously is the guy that's in the lineup, 10-25 ice time. He had an assist. The NHL did take it away, rightfully so. Yeah. So he's still going to have to wait for his first career point. But yeah, Jeff, I do agree with you, right? You just got to have that extra sentiment up here. I mean, we don't know how long JT Miller is going to be out not taking draws for. I'm sure here with a little bit of a break, maybe he's going to get some time off here to kind of figure out what's going on in his arm nerve area. We all saw what happened against the Philadelphia Flyers and, him leaving and coming back and kind of squeezing his hand a little bit and looking at Boeser and saying, I don't really think I can feel it. So there is that. So yeah, Räty's definitely going to be someone that they consider if this continues to be something that they'll work on. It is early enough in the season, so that's a positive as well. But yeah, Räty's definitely a guy there that we'll have to look at and wait and see. But I always ask this in the YouTube chat and different social channels, Jeff, what'd you like about this game and what'd you hate? So let's start with what you didn't like in the win for the Vancouver Canucks.
A little too loose in the first period.
Okay.
Again, the fact that they were able to extend leads, I like that part. I know you didn't ask me what I liked yet, but they needed that insurance because the Hawks kept chipping away. I just like even though the Canucks scored 4 in the first period, the Blackhawks outshot them 13-11, and the Canucks had 2 power plays. Blackhawks had no man advantages in that first period, so they generated 13 shots, all at 5-on-5, or I guess there may have been a shorthanded chance in there. Whatever the case, a little bit too loose there. But I think, again, that speaks to some of the struggles that Carson Soucy and Tyler Myers are having as a pair. They got crushed. The underlying numbers did not look great. Brandstrom and Desharnais got caught out for a 1.5-minute shift midway through the first period against Bedard, where they got hemmed. And so it didn't hurt them. They didn't get scored on, but still, there were some issues there. In fact, I think the Hawks followed that up and scored their first goal of the night right after that shift. So sort of capitalizing on a little momentum there. Jake DeBrusk a little too quiet for my liking again. I mean, this is 6 games now, no alarm bells. They're winning, and you just think, I mean, in some ways you could spin that. Look, they're winning, and their prize for agent acquisition hasn't come through for them yet. He had been picking up points along the way. He didn't get a point in this hockey game, so it was a pretty quiet night all around for Jake DeBrusk. No shots on goal. Played 13 minutes, so that's a pretty low number.
Yeah.
Again, he was bumped off the first unit power play, and the power play scored twice, so poor old Jake may not see power play 1 again for a little while here. So, yeah, I mean, look, I don't have the knives out for the guy, but it's been, in things that I would have liked to have seen more of, certainly a little more production from Jake DeBrusk in a hockey game like this one, where when goals were being scored, right? There have been some nights where goals have been hard to come by. Goals were flowing, particularly early, and nothing for Jake DeBrusk.
No, definitely not. And I think the goals will come for a guy like Jake DeBrusk. And he's a guy that's proven that he can score in this National Hockey League. Yes, we've gone through obviously a few games now, and he hasn't found the score sheet yet. A guy that did find the score sheet, his first 2, a local product here from Vancouver, that's Danton Heinen, and he was talked to after the game by Canucks reporter Olivia McDonald.
With that 21 seconds in, what did you see on that first goal?
Yeah, no, it was a good forecheck by my line mates and a good hold there at the point. And they made 2 great plays. And I was lucky enough to have an empty net, lucky enough for it to go in.
Does that set a tone for the night?
Yeah, I think so. I think it gets you going a little bit. You want to always be ready from the start, but yeah, I mean, you got to be honest. When it goes in, you definitely get a little more jump.
What was working for that line tonight?
I think we were just keeping it simple. Trying to get pucks in deep, kind of get the cycle going, and not get too fancy. Just keep it simple.
What was the feeling going into the last game of a road trip? Everybody wants to get home, but there's still business to take care of, right? Yeah, for sure. We said it before. If we get put a solid 60, try to get as close to a 60 as we can, and kind of keep on building and finish off the road trip right. And it was a good road trip.
There you go, Danton Heinen, courtesy of the Canucks on X. 2 goals for him. His first 2 as a member of the Vancouver Canucks, opened the scoring, and then again gave the Canucks a 3-1 lead midway through that first period. Goal that was challenged, and originally we thought goaltender interference. No, there was no goaltender interference, but it was out of the blue line, the entry, and another lengthy. We've seen a bunch of lengthy delays.
It's been a lot.
I know
this
already.
Year.
This season, and that one looked like it could have gone either way. Again, I know what Kiefer Sherwood was trying to do, but if they had said no, not quite, it was offside, I guess I could have bought it. But whatever the case, we've seen that before, where guys get across the blue line and then put the puck in, tag up, and that's ultimately how it was ruled. And so it was deemed a good goal, and Canucks will take it, and they didn't look back from there. Heinen with 2 on the night, so a good night for Danton Heinen in Chicago at the tail end of this road trip. Now, when Danton Heinen is scoring and Kiefer Sherwood is scoring the other night, and Teddy Bluger's got a couple of goals, where does this leave Daniel Sprong? 6 games into the season, 3 games, 3 healthy scratches, scored the first Canuck goal of the season on opening night against Calgary, and really that's all we've seen from him. There have been defensive issues that brought him out of the lineup in the first place, but he got back in the other night and then comes right back out. Archie Bain's playing ahead of him. Nils Amon is playing ahead of him. I don't think this is what Daniel Sprong signed up for. I don't want to make this a bigger issue than it is for a team that's 3-1-2, but you do wonder, like we saw what happened with Andrei Kuzmenko. It kind of snowballed from there last year. It sort of feels like Daniel Sprong's already heading down Kuzmenko Boulevard.
Yeah, but Daniel Sprong waited until the very last season, or very last day to sign a contract with the Vancouver Canucks. So no one wanted him over the summer as well either. I think when you look at it, it's a tough situation, right? Because Rick Tocchet has to go with the guy that he trusts in the hockey game in all situations. So if you're looking at your list of players that you have ready for games, sure, Daniel Sprong's proven that he can score in the National Hockey League, but he's been on 4 different teams, and that's for a reason, because of the play in his own end. Rick Tocchet knows what he's getting. We'll use for arguments like obviously Archdeep Bains. Rick Tocchet knows what he's getting in Archdeep Bains. So he can play Archdeep Bains up the lineup with guys like JT Miller and Brock Boeser, and he's going to be, semi-responsible in his own end, but he trusts him more in the third period than he would a guy like Daniel Sprong. And I think that that's a pretty, not a big indictment, but I think that is pretty telling for what Rick Tocchet thinks. I mean, if Sprong's going to be in the lineup, he's paid to score goals, and you're not going to put him on the first unit power play and only be a guy that does that, or only be a guy that, is in only there playing when you guys are playing well. If Daniel Sprong isn't playing well and it's a tight game and you can't use him in the third period, then what's the use? And I think that that's the biggest thing for Rick Tocchet.
Well, it's certainly going to be something to monitor here, because I know Sprong wants to play. All these guys want to play,
of course.
Obviously. But 6 games in and just 3 appearances for Daniel Sprong. So, again, the fact that others are playing and playing well in front of him and contributing, I think it's going to make it that much more difficult for a guy like Daniel Sprong to get back into the Vancouver Canucks lineup. It's too early in the season, really, to be looking at standings, but I do want to mention that 3 in a row now for the Canucks. They're above the playoff bar in the West for the first time. They're now into one of the 3 slots in the Pacific Division with 8 points, and they're just a single point out of first place now. Calgary in action as we record this on a busy, they don't get any busier nights in the National Hockey League, so these aren't all final standings, but Canucks have risen above the playoff bar. Can they stay there? There isn't much separation, but they did get a little help on the out-of-town scoreboard with Carolina beating the Edmonton Oilers in overtime. Carolina coming this way later on the homestand after the Pittsburgh game, so Edmonton gets a single point, but another home loss for the Edmonton Oilers, and they lose on a night when Connor McDavid staked them to a 2-0 lead. You don't want to waste 2-goal nights. I mean, there'll be more of them. That's not a concern, but it looked like 97 was into it and on his game, but Carolina scores, and it was 2-0 Oilers after 2 at home. And
yeah,
Carolina
their
wins
power
it.
play's stinky too right now, those Edmonton Oilers, especially with the guys that they have. I want to ask you, we mentioned Sprong and Bains and Amon and kind of the bubble guys, but there's a guy that, the Canucks traded for, went to Abbotsford, then he came up, and as soon as he got into the lineup, he's proven something. The Canucks actually need this guy in the lineup, and that's Eric Brandstrom. What'd you make of his game, or his few games now with the Vancouver Canucks?
Yeah, an offensive guy. I'm sure he's delighted to get on the score sheet for the first time as a Canuck. And, a bang play there shortly after Boeser had made it 5-2. Maybe the Blackhawks feeling a little sorry for themselves, let up, but you can't let up in the NHL. And the Canucks take advantage off that offensive zone faceoff. I'm on back to Brandstrom with a shot, and it kind of pinballed around and may have deflected off a Hawk, but ultimately went off P.S. Suter. He gets his first of the year. The fact that he's played 3 straight games, now Derek Forbort remains away from the team. I don't know for how much longer.
Yep.
My hunch is that we'll see him back around the team on the homestand at some point, but a winning lineup, a guy that is holding his own, doesn't play a ton, but 13 minutes and 50 seconds, so just a shade under 14 minutes for Brandstrom, a goal, or rather a shot on goal on 6 attempts. So, kind of like Quinn Hughes. Like, when we talk about him being profiling as a Quinn Hughes light, he's getting the puck on his stick in the offensive zone, and he's not hesitating. He's trying to make some things happen there. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of been a progression of 3 games, shake off a little rust, getting back into the NHL, get comfortable and familiar with your teammates, and the fact that they, had a few days out on the road. I'm sure that helps integrate a new guy into the system like that. So, you can't argue with the results. And he certainly hasn't hurt the hockey club. They've won 3 in a row here. I'd roll with him. And they don't have to make a roster decision here. It's not that Forbort has remained on the roster, just taking a leave of absence. So this isn't a question of Forbort coming back, they need the roster spot. No, it's just a coach's decision. And, Forbort's been away for a week now. maybe you let him get back, and whenever he gets back, and he can take as much time as he needs here. But a couple practices, whatever. I'm not sure that Derek Forbort gets his spot in the lineup back right away, given the way that Brandstrom and Desharnais seem to be falling into a little bit of a groove here.
Well, that I do agree with that, but I think there's an argument sake to be made that Brandstrom can play up the lineup as well. I mean, with what we've seen from Carson Soucy in some of these games, Jeff, when you and I do these shows, he's always on the wrong end on some of these goals, but it's just about earning your minutes and things like that. I think the thing that we can both agree on is he makes the Canucks a better team when he's in the lineup for these 3 games.
I can't imagine Soucy.
I can't imagine him sitting
out of the lineup, but the way that their depth chart is drawn up, Soucy and Myers are being used as shutdown guys. And we saw it in the playoffs that, the wingspan and the reach and everything, they keep teams to the perimeter. In the playoffs, they didn't seem to be making the same mistakes, though, that they're making, particularly Soucy right now. He's just got to clean up his game a little bit. And, I don't know that Brandstrom is ready to take on any sort of matchup roles if you played him higher in the lineup. So I kind of like where they've got him slotted right here, right now. Then it's a question of, does Desharnais stay in? Does Juleson get opportunities here? They're winning hockey games right now, so I kind of be loath to change an awful lot. But, how many bodies are too many bodies? And, so we talked about it's good options to have if you're coaching staff with some of the guys up front. I think you can say the same. I don't think this hockey club has arrived at its best 6 defensemen, and I think Brandstrom has sort of complicated that decision for the coaching staff. And I say that in a good way, just because he's another option that's shown, he's more than just a throw-in in the trade that sent Tucker Poolman's contract to Colorado. So, I've liked what I've seen from Brandstrom for the most part through his 3 games. Not a perfect player. I don't know that there is one in the National Hockey League, but I think he's settled in, and again, getting thrown in against the Stanley Cup champs in Florida after traveling across continent the whole bit. That was a tough start for him.
Yep.
And I just kind of think he's settled down now and is doing his thing. So he and the Vancouver Canucks, 3rd straight win. They're 3-1-2 now. They've scored 20 goals as a hockey club. And again, 20 goals without any contributions from Elias Pettersson or Jake DeBrusk. Those will come. You hope they come sooner rather than later, so that, some of this noise in the marketplace will die down just a little bit. All right. We always look at the lines of the night. 32 games. They're calling it the Frozen Frenzy. Just about all of the action around the National Hockey League is, I think there's 4 games that are still in progress as we do this show here. So 12 down, 4 results still to come. Lots going on. But the problem when you get everybody in action, not much action last night, and there won't be much action tomorrow night. So that didn't leave you an awful lot in the way of options when you look at the Bet365 line.
No, Jeff, definitely not. This segment is brought to you by Bet365, proud partner of Sekeres and Price Canucks Conversation. Yes, Jeff, you and I here at Rink Wide Vancouver. Open an account with Bet365 today. Bet a huge range of markets. So whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Use code VANBONUS when opening an account. If I were to look at the NHL schedule tomorrow and there was a bunch of games, I would definitely not be picking to bet on this one. But because this is here and there's only the 1 game on the schedule tomorrow, you don't think that John Tortorella is not going to have his team playing a hell of a lot differently than how they played against the Washington Capitals in this one. Gave up 2 shorthanded goals. I am going with the Philadelphia Flyers all day long on the money line. You get really good value there at plus 120 to come back and beat the Washington Capitals.
They're on the road, though. They were at home against Washington tonight and they scored 1 goal in their last 2 games, Irf. So
no, they're putting boots to the ground.
Cracking that whip.
Boots to the ground.
All right, we'll see if he can get to his team. Otherwise, could be a little bit of an early season hole for the Philadelphia Flyers. Hey, the Nashville Predators have dug themselves out of their early. They're not out of trouble, but they're into the win column. Shut out the Boston Bruins 4-0. So Nashville does now have a win on the season, and we'll see if they can build on that.
Yeah, trust me, I know how many times that they've lost taking the Nashville Predators with that roster try to win a hockey game.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Canucks did what they had to do to beat a Chicago team that is going to struggle again this season. They were game and had some moments in that first period that game could have perhaps changed a little bit, but Canucks were able to just continue to extend leads when Chicago was pushing there. 6-3 is the final. Canucks have won 3 in a row. As we said, just 1 outright loss now in 6 hockey games. So I think Canuck fans have to be feeling a whole lot better about this club and the way that things are trending here after opening that against Calgary and following that up with the shootout loss to the Philadelphia Flyers and then the loss in Tampa. Since then, it's been nothing but rainbows for this hockey club with those 3 straight victories. I know a team that really needs a victory. It's the Vancouver Whitecaps.
Oh, yes.
They are playoff bound for the 3rd time in the last 4 seasons. They've got this play-in matchup that's the home game in Portland. You probably know the story by now. They'll take on the Portland Timbers in the Western Conference wildcard matchup at Providence Park on Wednesday down in the City of Roses. Kickoff at 7:30 p.m. It's live for free on MLS Season Pass on Apple TV. It's also going to be broadcast on TSN. The winner of the wildcard match then advances to round 1 and will take on top seed LAFC in a best-of-3 series that'll take place between October 26th and November 10th. Playoff tickets for round 1 will be on sale shortly if the Whitecaps win their wildcard match. As listeners to Rink Wide Van, though, you can get in on the exclusive pre-sale by texting CAPS 604-305-4530. Again, text CAPS to 604-305-4530. And for more information, visit whitecapsfc.com and go Whitecaps. All right, Vancouver Canucks will head home from the Windy City with yet another win in their back pocket. It's a little bit of rest time. And again, we've touched on this before, but like now it's not only do they not play till Saturday, no back-to-backs until the Blackhawks are here on November 16th and Nashville in on the 17th. So in terms of rest and practice time, like this really is a coach's dream these first 6 weeks of the season. And we'll see how well the Canucks are able to put that to use. I think they're going to practice tomorrow and then take Thursday off, was my understanding. Rather than because they had Monday off in Chicago and then they played, or they had Sunday off. Monday practice. So we know that early in the season, coaches like to get their practices in and continue to chip away at some of the things that they want them to work on. So we'll see where the Canucks have some days off, but they'll likely practice Wednesday, take Thursday off, practice Friday, and then get back into game action. And always an event when Sid comes to town, and the way things have started, an event when Evgeny Malkin joins him. Malkin off to an incredible start, we're not going to get to see those guys that much more. They're in the back nines of their career. I'm not running them out of the NHL, but it's always an event when 2 of the best players of their generation and of their era, and they only come through once a year. So really looking forward to Saturday night at Rogers Arena for the Canucks and the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Still absolutely shocks me to no end how Evgeny Malkin was not one of the NHL top 100 players when they did that. Yeah. But that's, I mean, obviously he wasn't considered by some of the people who voted that in, but the dude is absolutely a beast. And he's 38, 39 years old right now, doing what he's doing at that age and taking the game over. And obviously Sid doing what he's doing and throwing it back last season to his earlier days of the way that he played and leading his team. But yeah, definitely if you have a chance, those are 2 players that you want to go and see. And I always say that about Alexander Ovechkin too. Like of that era, those are the guys that you want to go and see. I know people want to see McDavid and Draisaitl and Connor Bedard and all these young guys, but the old guys are still cooking.
Yeah, and the Canucks are cooking too. 3 straight wins after a 6-3 victory in Chicago. Danton Heinen with a pair. JT Miller was questionable. He played. Boy, did he plays up to 3 goals on the season now. Brock Boeser is up to 4. That's team lead for him. And Connor Garland just continuing to cook along. Gets his 3rd of the year and bumped up to the first unit power play. Garland had an assist as well. So another 2-point night for Connor Garland, who really has been one of the driving forces for the Vancouver Canucks here in the early going. All right, that's going to do it for us here on Rink Wide. Before we run, a reminder, we say it at the end of every program, check out Canucks Army for all the latest great features, news, you name it. One-stop shop for all things Vancouver Canucks. If you're not already, make sure that you add Canucks Army to your bookmarks and your favorites, and check out Canucks Convo weekdays and Sakaris and Price as well. And we've said it before, we say it again. Please follow us on our socials, subscribe to our YouTube channel, rate and review. Give us a review. Tell us how much you like your Rink Wide, what you like about it. Hey, if you got suggestions for us, consider it a suggestion box as well. Any of our social channels there. And I always say, let us know where you're checking us out, where around the world. Canuck fans are a hearty lot, and we know there are a bunch of them out there, not just here in the Vancouver market. So we always like to hear from you. Drop us a line on any of our social channels or in the YouTube live chat. For Jacob, doing another great job behind the scenes, and for my man Irf, who's taking Saturday off. So enjoy Saturday's game.
Yes.
And we'll be back to do this next Monday when the Carolina Hurricanes are in town. But we'll have Rink Wide for you on Saturday. I'm not even sure who our co-host is, but we've got time. That's the beauty of the schedule. We'll have somebody for you. This is Jeff again. Thanks so much for sticking with us here, whether it's on YouTube or listening to the podcast. This is Rink Wide Vancouver.